Early network security relied on a simple boundary, a castle and a moat. But as workloads left the data center and users left the office, that rigid web snaps its connections and dissolves into a formless cloud. Modern zero-trust architecture abandoned the castle and moat model because physical location no longer guarantees security. That technical shift is logically sound for machines, but for schools, institutions that hold a specific legal duty of care, this dissolution creates a governance vacuum. Human accountability relies on spatial clarity. We must be able to point to who guards the gate, who holds the keys, and who manages the records. The UK's Keeping Children Safe in Education guidelines rely on this physical grammar. They assign responsibility using the logic of gates, rooms, and keys. Identifying a contact risk becomes impossible if the institution cannot define exactly who is in the digital room with a child. While machines verify identity without walls, the people responsible for children require these boundaries to make the institutional architecture visible, contestable, and inspectable. When a school operates entirely online, the software platform becomes the premises. In this environment, purchasing a software license is the digital equivalent of laying bricks. This shift transforms procurement into a form of architecture, where technical specifications define the actual physical limits of the school. This schematic, the Open Provision Drawing Convention, treats an online school as a governed site rather than a collection of tools. It provides a common language for two very different groups, security engineers and safeguarding professionals. A successful network must function as a default deny topology for the engineer and a legible floor plan for the families and staff. To build this, we first establish strict boundaries before connecting any users or services. We define reception as the single sign-on point where identity is established and every visitor signs the book. The key cabinet acts as the centralized authority where staff permissions are granted, reviewed, and removed. The safeguarding office houses the audit trail, an immutable record of care that remains separate from daily administrative flows. Allowing fragmented logins across various third-party vendors creates invisible side doors into the institution. The architectural response is to force every constituency through a single auditable boundary. Learners, families, staff, and partners all approach the school through this governed front gate. By fixing these rooms in a spatial arrangement, the school ensures it owns the premises instead of merely renting fragmented spaces from technology companies. This flow diagram maps the services layer. It operates on a strict specification. If a flow is not drawn here, it does not exist. This translates the cybersecurity principle of default deny into a physical pathway moving from the gate to the classroom. Telemetry from the classroom travels to the audit tray using a strictly directional pathway. This is a write-only connection, ensuring data enters the record but cannot be extracted or tampered with through the same door. Accessing that record requires a high-level permission set, restricted to the designated safeguarding lead. Mapping data in this way turns a zero-trust network into a transparent, legally defensible chain of custody. In high-stakes environments, security is defined by what the architecture explicitly prevents. The 2026 statutory guidelines classify harmful generative AI as a contact risk, putting it in the same category as unauthorized visitors. Looking at this hashed box beneath the classroom, we see SEAL X3. This is an architectural boundary that enforces constraints that a terms of service policy cannot. SEAL X3 admits the AI to the lesson as an audited visitor, where it can assist with learning while being continuously identified. But it faces a structural barrier. The AI is mechanically incapable of reaching the child's private safeguarding record. SEAL X2 applies this same logic to alternative provision partners. They share the learner's educational journey, but never the deep safeguarding file. Statutory compliance in the cloud is achieved through these undeniable structural seals, moving security beyond vendor promises and into the architecture itself. This crosswalk table proves that while these drawings look like a school, they map directly to international engineering standards. Every room and flow correlates to the NCSC Zero Trust Design Principles and NIST 800-207. Corporate Zero Trust models are designed to protect financial assets. This relational model is built to protect the autonomy and continuity of a child's relationships. In any accountability system, we must ask who has the authority to change the rules. Looking at the top right corner of the plate, we see the revision block. This block explicitly grants standing to learners, families, and staff to challenge the drawing. Making the network topology a contestable, version-controlled artifact turns a technical map into a primary tool for institutional governance. Zero Trust correctly dissolved the perimeter for machines. To protect children, we must deliberately draw the walls back in at the accountability layer.